I wanted to talk about something, and as I talk about it, I want to share a story about an adventure, and the adventure is you, okay? And in this adventure's life, they go through cycles, okay? And they have to understand these cycles when they come, because humanity goes through the cycles, and the individual go through the cycles, and in fact, everything in the universe goes through these cycles. I am not a teacher. I am just telling you what life taught me, because life is the true teacher of life. If you look at anyone as if they are a teacher, I honestly believe as if that is probably the most false way to look at life, because that person is nothing more than a mere vessel that life has put in front of you to learn through. Not that they are the teacher, but life is the teacher itself. It is up to you to pick up on what life is trying to give to you. Now, in this cycling, I make these documentations of things I've discovered. This is me going through Egyptian texts, studying ancient civilizations. I have books on these things, looking at hieroglyphs, and understanding what they're trying to uncover and unfold to people in these texts and these teachings. Now, it's interesting as we still do this today, but we've kind of departed the meaning of things. Let me give you the reasoning of my thought. Now, and I speak in a symphony of thoughts, so we'll get to this in a moment, but I just want to help you understand this. In the story of the Egyptian pantheon, the god Osiris, he is once whole, his brother Set chops him up, he breaks into pieces, and he goes down the Nile. And the Nile is essentially the primordial waters. He goes into essentially the ether. And then when he comes back, his rebirth, he's put back together, but one piece is missing, and that is the phallus. And in this story, you'll see this, and in a sense, we've even done this with this cycle. This is the solar cycle, essentially, I'm putting in front of you. But I'm going to break it down in a way that shows you about life. You see, we now only look at this as a way of just telling what time of day it is. That's because we've broken apart the meaning of what it meant when it was all once whole in the time that it was made. This whole thing was whole. Osiris's body breaks and scatters, so there's pieces and fragments of things, and we don't quite put them all together and put Osiris's body back together as Isis did in the pantheon. Well, here I'm going to perform to be Isis at this moment and try to put the things back together to help you understand what this solar cycle, us telling time, teaches us in the entirety of life and how it applies, because we are made of everything in the universe. So I'm going to share this with you, what I discovered, and this is just philosophy. So look, just understand, this is just philosophy. You can take it or leave it. So number one, all right, I want you to think about this as a video game, okay? This is a video game, and you are an adventurer. And on this adventure, the sunrise, this is the start new game. This is the spawn point. You enter the game, okay? So the sun enters the world. We enter this world through the spawn point. In here, the game gives us our purpose. Anytime you play a video game, it tells you what mission you're on. It puts you into the ground of telling you this is the character's purpose, and it gives you the storyline and narrative, and you're here. So humanity goes through this as well too. But you as the adventurer, you are entering this game. That is the sunrise. This is your spawn point. As you progress, you get to morning, okay? It is the sun rising, and now it's entered morning. Well, morning is a representation of leveling up. It's moving up. In this, you learn in this game. You get new skills, you get new abilities. When you play a video game, your character starts to do things, and they level up, and they get access to different things. This is amazing, because now in this game of life, you as the adventurer, you once started off as something that did not have much abilities to being something that does have abilities and leveled up. You got skill. And we go through this in life. Humanity goes through this. At one point, especially here in America, we were so leveled up. We had so many great inventions. Things were going well. Humanity was going up. You as the adventurer, you're going up. Now we reach noon, the zenith, the peak, essentially. You, the adventurer, you have maxed out all your stats. For this cycle, you've maxed out all of your stats in this video game. Now, I want you to think about this as a cycle, okay? Don't think when I say max like the game is over. No, 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 no. It's never over. But in this case, for this season, like there's Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, this movie, this here is the max. This is like this is the max right here for this season right here. You've reached the zenith. You've leveled up. And now you face a boss. And I want you to understand something. What you see above is what's about to happen below. Everything here is external. On the top surface, everything is external because we're in the light. We can see. So the boss, you face the boss, and the boss is ego. You're facing ego, okay? And ego is a very external thing. Everything that you've accomplished makes you feel as if you are amazing. It really boosts your self-esteem up. So at the zenith, you face ego as the adventurer. This is the boss you have to face. The boss is ego. And now, as you face this boss, it's really about to put you to the test because now we're about to take a descend. And as we take this descend, if you defeat ego, you shall descend. You're going down. And what does the sun setting mean? The end of the game. The end of the game is coming. So this is the end of the game. And the representation of the end of the game means decay. That means things are decaying. If you take a look at a tree, the cycle of a tree, it's planted as a seed, okay? Planted as a seed. It rises above the soil. It grows morning. It reaches its zenith, peak, okay? And then it decays. At some point in time, the plant has to decay. It can't live forever. It has to decay. And it goes back into the soil, dusk. So the decay goes back into the soil. So you, the adventurer, now, this is when the game is coming to the end. This is when we're reaching the final credits, the final scene, okay? The final scene in the video game. So we reach dusk, and dusk is transformation, okay? We're transforming, and we go into the earth, or the sun goes beneath the horizon, or we, the adventurer, you go and transition into another part, another stage of life. This part we represent as death, but I don't want to look at it as death. In fact, there's nothing wrong with death because death is really a part of the process of renewal. We need it, it's important. So now the adventurer, you, go into dusk, and now you enter another stage of life. Because as above, so below. You enter the underworld. Now, we call this night. And notice how I'm using the solar cycle to explain this to you. We call this night. And in night, the enemy is your mind. The enemy was up here, was on the outside. Now beneath, the enemy's on the inside. And now at night, no longer does external light work anymore at night. No longer can you actually use external light. You see, in video games, sometimes the character is stripped of their abilities to put them to the real test. Their sword might be taken away from them. Their shield might be taken away from them. They might not run as fast as they used to. Take this for instance, and you can get the metaphor. You as the adventurer in the daytime, if I told you to run through the forest, you could do it. You could run through the forest. You could see all the trees. Now, let me take the sun away from you. Now I say run through the forest now. You are now at a disadvantage because to run through that forest, the same things that got you through the forest in the daytime won't get you through the forest at the nighttime. So in this part, you have to adapt. You have to adapt. No longer does external light work here, only internal. The game got harder, or at least it perceives to get harder. So this is where you have to fight the inner enemy. The enemy is your mind. And I'll give you an example of like what the enemy is. The enemy is, let's take for instance, we take a look at the world and let's just say racism. Right? That's really a construct that is actually more started on the inside from self-centering oneself and then externalizing it out to other people. That enemy started on the inside. There's an old African proverb that says, if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. To enter the underworld, we must understand this. Above every door in Egypt, it says, know thyself. To know yourself when night hits is so important because you are using your senses. You're using your intuition. You're using things that you were told in the daytime not to use. They weren't necessary. You didn't need them to win necessarily. If you had them, that'd be nice, but they weren't necessary here in the daytime. And you can't use these here. So you are the enemy. Every thought, every decision was made internally. And here's the thing, you never recognized this here because when you were living in the day, you casted a shadow on the floor, but you never looked at your shadow. You never gave your shadow any attention. And that's what we do. You as the adventurer, you always had the ability to understand this underworld the time you were up here. Because as the sun stays in the air, it does cast a shadow. But how often do you, and I just want to say this, how often do you, in this day and time, do you look at your own shadow? I'm just saying metaphorically, like just metaphorically, but actually literally, like how often do we actually look at our own shadow walking out in public? You don't even think about it, but you do cast a shadow and you never look at it. That metaphorically tells you how much we look at our dark side, our blind sides to life. So this nighttime is about the challenge, the blind side you did not look at. And for those of you who did look at it when you were up here, you defeated ego, you shall be able to defeat this. And that's why this boss here, Noon, the zenith, was so important to beat because it prepared you for this here, the nighttime. All right, let's continue. Now, at the peak of nighttime, the belly of the beast, you enter facing yourself. This is when you face yourself. See, here you were facing ego, things you achieve, leveling up. Now you face yourself. If you can defeat yourself, integrate that darkness and understand it more, you shall emerge. And now you become pre-dawn. This is rebirth at this point. You as the adventurer, you now are rebirthed. You haven't quite made it above the horizon, but it is on its way. So now, as the sun rises, we enter the New Game Plus. In a video game, when you beat the video game, sometimes what happens is they give you the option to play the game all over again, but now you might have an ability or you might have brought with you the only thing you could have brought with you is the darkness. Understand that. The things you got from the darkness were the only things you could bring with you into the light because they're the only things that really matter. You couldn't bring anything from the light into the darkness, but you could bring the things from the darkness into the light because you learned the enemy was you. And once you learned that lesson, you defeated it, you can now bring it into the light. And so now we have sunrise. And now we go back to the whole cycle again, and you can, now we play this video game again, and it sounds a lot more different. We know our purpose. And in fact, we have a new perspective on our purpose all over again as we're reliving this life. We do this currently in our everyday to day life. Now I look at my life again and revisit it. I've been living already, but I'm revisiting it, you as the adventurer. And now you have this new way of looking at it because you already defeated it. Another perspective, an additional perspective, a new game plus perspective. Now you level up. You know what it is to level up. You've done this before. You get the process. Ego sets in, testing you again. I mean, hey, you're really good at this. And now you're even better. Don't let it consume you because you might be really good at something, but do not let the ego consume you. The sun goes down. You know what to do. You've been through this before. Prepare. Dusk is coming. The enemy was within. What new perspective in this belly of the beast do you have to defeat now? The cycle happens again. You rebirth. New game plus plus. Two pluses. You have two new perspectives. In life, the sun does this every day. The sun that you've seen rise today and go down beneath the horizon is not the same sun that you see rise the next day. It is not. It's a whole different sun. It's a whole different sun. It's not even this, it's not even the same anymore. It goes through this journey. You must go through this journey too as well. So I make these, I document this thought here to show that humanity goes through this as well too. You see, if you've been wondering what has really been happening with America, what's going on, look, at one point we knew what our purpose was. We built towards it. Things were building. Humanity was building. We were leveling up. We reached our peak. And then it's starting to get a lot dark. I don't know if people are realizing, but it's starting to get dark. I think around 2020, it started to get really dark. It felt like the fall of humanity. The sun hit dusk. It went down. And now I believe we finally entered the night. And if you pay attention to everything you've seen as of recently, you see, one thing I've noticed is you have all these people who, you have the political fractions of, like, you know, the liberals and conservatives. You have men versus women. You have what else? Just trying to think about. You have the concept of racism. People from different cultures clashing. That is all internal. That is all extremely internal. And I promise you, in what's coming in, none of that stuff matters. Nothing external matters anymore. Nothing. We're in the nighttime. What got you through the nighttime won't get you through the night. And that's why people feel this darkness. And the issue is, all these topics, all these things are challenging. They're completely challenging the inner world in all these people. And they don't even realize it. They don't even realize, like, they're actually being challenged. Their inner world is being challenged. They're the enemy. The enemy lives within inside them. That's why I said, if you think about something like racism, or let's say hatred, it's a self-centering thing, because the other person is making me uncomfortable. I don't like it. Take, for instance, if I tell you a joke, and here's a good way of looking at it. You see, telling jokes, humor, and that has depth behind it, if I joke with you on something and I really don't mean it and it's just a joke, it challenges your inner world. Because if you take offense to the joke when it's actually a joke of depth, meaning, and it's not meant to actually be anything bad, but we're bringing light to it so that we can understand that is not a good thing, right? Or we're bringing awareness to it. In the darkness, that becomes really hard with a lot of people because they internalize that. And they don't realize they can't, since they don't have their eyes anymore, everything is internal to them. They don't understand how to control those senses. This is such a metaphoric thing to explain, but if you do not have your eyes once it hits night, like we're in the nighttime, that's why everything feels so real in this day and time. If you really look at it, people internalize these feelings. I remember watching videos, and it would be like a guy interviewing a girl, and they'd be like, what are men good for? And they'd be like, nothing. And they'd be like, what are women good for? Everything. And I thought it was funny. I was like, okay, that's pretty funny. That's a good punchline. I didn't see that coming. And then as time progressed, I started seeing people actually believed in that. I was like, oh, we really believe in this. Oh, that's crazy. That's wild. And the reason I say that's wild is because they don't get that they're in the nighttime. They're internalizing something, and they're internalizing something that should not be internalized. It's not that serious, but it's because they don't have abilities to use their eyes, and they don't understand what stage of the game we're in. So life goes through these cycles. Humanity goes through these cycles. Those who understand how to defeat the enemy within inside them, they don't fall for these things. They don't. So I share this with you. So I share this with myself because I told myself I need to document some of these thoughts that I have and some of these learnings that I learned, that I can come back to these things one day and revisit them or understand them. But I'll share them online with the public. But this is for you.